The afternoon sun hung low over the Solomon Islands. Lieutenant Keishio Yamada squinted at the horizon, spotting a silhouette he had seen too many times in the last 18 months. August 1943. His Mitsubishi Zero responded instantly to his controls, light, agile, deadly in close combat. But this shape was different. Twin booms cut through the scattered clouds, a shadow of something unfamiliar. The American fighter was over 1,000 yards away. No immediate threat, not yet. Then his wingman's aircraft shuddered violently. Smoke erupted from the engine cowling, curling into the sky. Yamada's radio crackled with panic. "We're being hit from nowhere." The P-38 Lightning hadn't closed in. It didn't need to, it simply reached them. "Bakono!" His wingman gasped, voice lost to static. "Monster." And just like that, the lightnings vanished into the clouds, untouchable, leaving death in their wake. For months, Japanese pilots faced the same horrifying pattern. They were being shot down from distances that defied every rule of aerial combat. Their commanders demanded answers. Intelligence officers combed wreckage, interviewed survivors, and interrogated captured American pilots. The guns were standard, 50 caliber machine guns, a single 20mm cannon, nothing exotic. Nothing that should have worked beyond 400 yards. Yet the Americans killed reliably at double that range. The secret wasn't the ammunition. It was something far more elegant, a solution so simple that Japanese engineers initially refused to believe it. By the time they understood, it was already too late. The P-38 had shattered Japanese air superiority in the Pacific. To understand why the P-38 was so lethal, you first need to understand a problem every World War II fighter pilot faced. Gun convergence. Picture this, you're a Spitfire pilot in 1940. Your wings carry 8 machine guns, 4 on each side, all firing parallel streams. Without angling them inward, your bullets would never meet. This angling is called convergence, and it's both critical and limiting. British pilots typically set convergence at 250 yards. American pilots, 300-400. At that exact distance, all guns formed a devastating cone of fire. Hidden enemy aircraft in that sweet spot were obliterated. Too close, say 200 yards, the bullets missed. Too far, 500 yards, the streams spread into useless patterns. A narrow window determined life or death. Every fighter pilot faced the math. You optimized your guns for one range and compromised at all others. Long-range attacks with wing-mounted guns were a gamble. German pilots knew it well when attacking American bombers. They had to get dangerously close or risk hitting nothing. The P-38 changed that. Lockheed's P-38 Lightning was born from a 1937 Army Air Corps requirement. A fighter capable of reaching 20,000 feet in 6 minutes and flying at 360 mph. At the time, most aircraft struggled to break 300 mph. One engine couldn't do it. Kelly Johnson and his team did the radical. They built a twin-engine fighter with a revolutionary twin-boom design. 2 Allison engines sat in streamlined booms, leaving a central pod for the pilot and weapons. This layout solved multiple problems: speed, altitude, landing gear stowage, and almost incidentally a game-changing weapon arrangement. The guns were mounted directly in the nose. When the XB-38 first flew in 1939, test pilot Ben Kelsey pushed it to 414 mph, astonishing speed for the era. Even in the prototype's emergency landings, its potential was clear. By late 1941, the P-38E rolled out of production with its final armament, 4 50 caliber machine guns and a single 20mm cannon, all clustered in the nose. This arrangement would prove deadly, but the pilots themselves had yet to understand why. December 27, 1942. Port Moresby, New Guinea. The 39th Fighter Squadron flew their first combat mission in new P-38FS, replacing worn-out P-39s. Skepticism was high. The Lightnings were large and unfamiliar, far less nimble than the Zero. By the end of the mission, 11 Japanese aircraft had fallen. The Americans had lost 1. What stunned everyone wasn't the kill ratio, it was how it happened. Lieutenant Richard Bong described his first Lightning kill. He opened fire at 800 yards. Strikes appeared immediately. By 500 yards, the enemy was engulfed in flames. 800 yards. Twice, or even 3 times, the effective range of wing-mounted guns. Other pilots reported the same. They fired from distances where they expected misses and watched as the rounds struck with deadly precision. Japanese intelligence was bewildered. Captured P-38 wreckage revealed standard ammunition, 50 caliber ball, armor-piercing incendiary and tracer rounds, plus the 20 cannon shells. Nothing exotic. So why were the Americans hitting so far? The answer, geometry. In traditional fighters, each wing-mounted gun fired at an angle. The bullet streams only intersected at the convergence point. Miss the distance and your firepower dispersed. In the P-38, all 5 guns fired straight ahead, directly from the pilot's line of sight. No convergence was needed. Aim at the target, squeeze the trigger, and every round had a chance to hit, whether at 400 or 1,000 yards. The result was staggering. At 600 yards, a Spitfire's guns might spread 60 feet wide. The P-38, 8 feet. At 800 yards, still manageable, the combination of 50 caliber machine guns and a 20 cannon delivered a surgical strike over ranges that left Japanese pilots in disbelief. Saburo Sakai, Japan's ace with 64 victories, first encountered the lightning over Guadalcanal in late 1942. Initially, he and his fellow Zero pilots were excited by the challenge. But as the months passed, the psychological impact became clear. P-38s could strike from above, dive at incredible speed, and climb out of reach. Zero pilots couldn't respond. They couldn't close the distance, and every engagement felt fatal. By mid-1944, many Japanese units avoided P-38 formations unless they had numerical superiority. Experienced pilots had been killed by rounds that shouldn't have connected. The lightning had created a psychological barrier as lethal as its firepower. The apex of the P-38's tactical advantage came on April 18, 1943, during the mission to intercept Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Using cryptography, Americans learned the Japanese admiral's flight path. 16 P-38s flew low over 400 miles of enemy territory to intercept Yamamoto's transport. Lieutenant Rex Barber lined up on the lead bomber, opening fire at roughly 500 yards. The combination of nose-mounted machine guns and 20 cannon shredded the aircraft instantly. Yamamoto's plane crashed into the jungle. The operation was as precise as it was deadly, and it was only possible because of the lightning's unique geometry and long-range firepower. The ammunition deserves attention. Each 50 caliber gun carried 500 rounds, the 20 cannon 150. Combined, the 5 guns fired over 4,000 rounds per minute. The mix of armor-piercing incendiary, high explosive, and tracer rounds created what pilots called a buzzsaw effect. Glancing hits crippled flight controls, severed hydraulic lines, and wounded pilots, setting up heavier rounds for the kill. Even civilian pilots like Charles Lindbergh, who flew combat missions in the Pacific, could leverage the P-38's long-range gunnery. Accuracy came not from skill alone, but from the aircraft's design. Meanwhile, Japanese aircraft had a fatal flaw: light construction and minimal armor. The Zero's agility depended on sacrificing protection. Against P-38s, this vulnerability was catastrophic. The American Lightnings didn't need to turn fight. They could kill from ranges where the Zero was defenseless. By 1945, experienced Japanese pilots were rare. P-38s had rewritten the rules of aerial combat. There was no safe distance, no comfort in numbers, no hope in superior maneuverability. Geometry and physics, amplified by brilliant engineering, dictated the outcome. Post-war, the P-38's legacy endured. Japanese engineers embraced centerline armament in jets. American jets followed suit. The principle remained: concentrated fire along the centerline extended effective range. The P-38 Lightning didn't require exotic weapons. Its shells were ordinary. Its delivery was extraordinary. And in the Pacific skies of 1943-1945, that made all the difference. Today, fewer than 20 Lightnings fly worldwide, preserved in museums. Their legacy is not only in history books, but in the very design of modern fighter aircraft, where the lessons learned in those distant skies echo in every missile and gun tube. Sometimes the deadliest advantage isn't invention, it's insight. The P-38 proved it.